we're going to do a real quick tune-up on this now since we got the wires kind of halfway off. And since they're 15 or 16 years old, we're just going to go ahead and replace them. So if you follow a couple little steps or think it out in advance, you can do it so you don't mix the wires up and cross a wire. Even though it's a 4-cylinder, it's real easy, but you'd be surprised how many times they get crossed, the wires get crossed and you get a misfire. So we're going to pull the plugs out and replace those real quick. Then I'm going to show you a quick way to match the cap and the rotor, the cap and the wires before you change them. So we're going to go ahead and pop these plugs out. These are down in there, so you need a long extension. You also need the socket that has the spark plug socket that has the rubber in it, so you can hook the plug and pull it out. Otherwise, it's not that easy to get the plugs out. Okay, so if you don't have that kind of socket, you can use the old spark plug boot to get it out. Just wiggle it around, hook it on there, pull it out like that. You want to make sure you get the same plugs that come out that you put back in. It's even best to put the same brand back in. Certain cars are designed and built with certain type of parts on them. If you have a General Motors or Chevy, AC Delco is best to put on. If you have a Ford, it's Motorcraft. Honda and lots of imports use NGK. They're the OEM supplier for plugs, and a lot of their cap and rotor and wire stuff, if you get Beck Arnley, that's great quality stuff. A lot of times it's the same thing that came on the car from the factory. It's all made in Japan. Good quality stuff. If you're doing a tune-up on your car, and you can get one wire set that's 20 bucks and another wire set that's 50 bucks, there's usually a pretty good reason for the difference. So we strongly recommend against going the cheap way on anything for your car, especially tune-up stuff. The new plugs, they should be gapped properly. On your engine, on the hood or somewhere in the engine, you'll have an engine sticker, and it actually tells you the spark plug gap right on there. Most, can you see that where it says spark plug and then type? And it even tells you the brand that comes factory is NGK. Gives you a part number. It's actually the same exact part number we got, which is ZFR6J-11. So we got the same plugs, and these come pre-gapped. We'll double check them anyway, but these do come ready to install most always. You can also compare it to the old ones and see how much of a difference there is, and there's a pretty big difference. Some of these are gapped way too big. And then to start them back in there, I do it the same way. Take an old wire, pop it in there. This is just to start it. You start twisting it in by hand. Once it gets a few threads in, you can pull it off, and it's in there. Okay, plugs are in, they're done. Okay, now what I was saying about the distributor cap. I'm going to take the cap off with the wires still on it. I'm going to lay it down, put the new cap next to it, and put the new wires on so I can see where each one goes. That way when I go to put it back on, it'll go right back on like the old one did, nice and easy. To get the cap off, there's 3 little bolts. This one's actually missing a bolt. Luckily, again, if you get good brand parts, this is it's a factory OEM cap, and it comes with new bolts. So somewhere along the line, this person lost that screw, and luckily we'll be able to put a new one on there. Okay, so we got the whole rotor off. The whole distributor cap off. I'm leaving the wires on. I'm going to lay it right down so that I can look at the new one and put each wire where it goes. So here's the new cap. I'm going to make sure it's the right one, which it is. You can see the little knob where the coil goes. This is the ignition coil on the car, and this little coil right here is what sends all the spark to the cap, and then the rotor distributes it to each wire. That's how that works. So lay these out so we can see them. Okay, so we get the longest one. So let me pick out the wires here. Sometimes aftermarket wires aren't the exact same length. We did get a Beck Arnley, so they're probably the same exact length. I can pick it up, find the longest one, it's right there. Follow it where it goes up, and it goes all the way to this back one. Plug that in. You want to make sure it's plugged in all the way, so you have a good contact. Usually they'll kind of snap on, and you can feel it when they're on there. Yeah, you feel it when it kind of snaps on. You want a good connection there. So there's that one. One more thing to do, and that's to transfer over this little plug holder. This thing keeps the wires so they don't touch each other. It's very important to put this back on. You don't want the wires touching each other. If they can touch each other, they could actually arc to each other, cause a misfire. And I usually always put them back right where they were. And if you arrange your wires the same way that they were, it's pretty easy to see where this would go. Basically goes there and keeps the wires separated. There's another one a little farther down, and it doesn't do the short one, it just does these three. Okay, we got that on there. One last thing, there may be an O-ring. Some of these have O-rings to replace. This one has one in there. Came with a new one, so it's good to replace that. Doesn't really seal any liquids in, basically somewhat seals moisture and things out. Okay, so we got the gasket in place. The rotor is right here. That just pops right off. It's just a slip fit design. Sometimes there's a little screw in there, but this one does not have one. To get this off, you can put your flathead in there. You don't want to pry on any electronics because you can break those. You can pry on the base of the distributor though. You want to be careful though. This can ruin your day. Sometimes these little rotors are a bear to get off, so you got to work them a little while, You want to be real careful with the distributor. What we ended up doing was getting a flathead screwdriver, putting it at the base of it, and we took an old hammer, started tapping on it. It actually moved just a little bit. There, it finally comes off. It's been on there for a long time. So now we'll put a nice new one on. These only go on one way. They're keyed, so you can't put them on wrong. It needs to be on there nice and snug like the last one. So put it on the way it's supposed to be on. Press it on there. You want to avoid beating on it, but you can take like the end of your screwdriver, the rubber part, put it on there and just give it a couple taps. Make sure it's on there all the way. Next thing we're going to do is install the cap. Make sure that the O-ring's in there all the way. This should just fit right on there nicely. Get your nice new screws. Start the easiest one. These don't get very tight, just snug them down. Okay, then when we get it all together, we can go ahead and put the plug wires back on, back where they need to go. And it was really simple. They're only long enough to go into certain places. Usually they'll come with some kind of a dielectric grease that you can put on the end of the boots. That's so when you push these on the plug, they snap on there nice and snug, and also so you don't tear the gasket. You can also kind of twist them on there.